Looking at your notes for today, we are going to talk about different angle measures. This is the final lesson that we have in Chapter 9 about finding unknown angle measures. If you would, please take out your red pen, and I want you to fill in this slide about some of the vocab words that we're going to be using today. All right, the first kind of angles we're going to talk about today are adjacent angles. Everyone say adjacent. Okay, so I want you to just get an idea of understanding this vocab word. My classroom is right next door to Mrs. Kinder's classroom, the 8th grade math teacher, okay? Our classrooms are called adjacent because there is a wall that we share. We share a common wall, and then our rooms are on either side. Can anyone think of another teacher's classroom who is adjacent to a different teacher's classroom here in the M building? Jacoby. Okay, I would say Miss Houseman and then the 8th grade teacher, Miss Burns, because they share that wall right there in between. Okay, so those are examples of adjacent rooms. I want you to look at this angle that I have up here. I would call this, if there were an angle right there, this angle, let me just highlight it in red, would be called ADB. Okay, then if I was to highlight this other one over here, this would be BDC. Okay, so they come together at this little dot down there. Do you see that in your notes? The dot is what we would call a vertex, okay? So a vertex is basically a meeting point of two lines that form an angle together. So this would be one angle that we called AB, I covered that up, and then D. And then this angle over here in green would be called BDC, okay? So those are considered adjacent because basically they share that line right there in the middle. Let's move on to complementary. Everyone say complementary. Try one more time. Complementary. Complementary. Thank you. Those are two angles whose sum is how many degrees, guys? 90 degrees. Is there any way that you can easily identify a complementary angle? Halen, how can I do that? Okay, if it has this little box right there and it shows us that that is a right angle. Now, coming off of that, you will see there is a line down the middle. And then, how many degrees is that right there?
60.
That is 60 degrees. How many degrees did we say that was?
30.
Does this make sense that 30 plus 60 equals 90 degrees?
Yeah.
Yes, so that's how we could tell that's a complementary angle because there were two angles there whose sum, as in if I were to add them up together, equals 90 degrees. Let's move on to the next one. Repeat after me. Supplementary angles.
Supplementary angles.
All right, so now just directly underneath that, I want you to put straight line. A supplementary angle is going to have a straight line. In this case, you can see the straight line is down here on the bottom, but off of that straight line, there will be one line that comes off, and this forms different angles. How much is this angle right here? 120 degrees. How much did we say this angle was? 60. Do you guys see that if I were to add those two, 120 plus 60, what would I get? 180. And that's how you can tell that that's a supplementary angle. Once again, supplementary angle will always have a straight line, okay? And then that's how we can easily identify that that's a supplementary angle. Finally, I want to talk to you about one last thing. Repeat after me. Vertical angles. Vertical angles, anytime that I think of them, I think that it looks like it forms an X, okay? Do you guys see how this right here looks like it forms an X?
No.
Okay, vertical angles will always form an X. But read to me the definition of a vertical angle.
Two angles
That share a vertex and are opposite each other, their measures are equal. So let me just show you the vertical angles. I want to point out first. I'm going to erase the 1 and I'm going to erase the 3. This is called angle 2 at this point. Do you guys see where the vertex is?
The middle.
The middle, that dot right there. Then there's another angle over here, angle 4. These two, as you can see here, their measures are going to be what we call equal. Also, as you read, they share a vertex. So that vertex is this dot here in the middle. They are opposite of each other. So if this 2 right here was 70 degrees, guess what the 4 would also be? Also 70 degrees. Now I'm going to make this look like it did before. I just told you that angle 2 and angle 4 are opposite each other, or those are considered vertical angles. Did you guys catch anything else in there that would also be vertical angles? Jocelyn?
The top and the bottom.
Very good. So we would call this angle 1, and that would also be a vertical angle with angle 3. All right, so now I've got some pictures of angles here, and I want us to see if we can identify or if we can classify what these pairs of angles would be called, and then we'll find the value of x. This first one right here, when I look at it, I think, okay, that looks like an x. Which set of angles, complementary, supplementary, or vertical, did we say will always look like an x? Vertical. So let's write it directly underneath, guys. These are called vertical angles. Let's go up to the top and read once again the definition that we know about vertical angles. Go ahead. Two angles that share a vertex and are opposite each other, their measures are equal. So Reagan, if this is 70 degrees, what do you think this is going to be?
7.
It's also going to be 70 degrees. Vertical angles to me are one of the easiest angles to find because it equals whatever it is opposite of. Let's go to the next one. Michaela, what kind of angles do you think these are? Complementary, supplementary, or vertical?
Complement.
Why do you think those are complementary? It has the square, okay? So what we would say in a more mathematical way, we could see here that this is a right angle, okay? Because those are right angles, they are complementary angles. Guys, help me to understand, how many degrees are in a complementary angle?
90.
Always there would be 90 degrees. So as I said before, it means there's two angles whose sum is 90 degrees, which means I have to add up the two angles we see there. This right here, how many degrees is that red angle, class? 31 degrees. Then I'm going to color the other one green. What does it call or name this green angle?
The x plus 4.
It calls it x plus 4. So I have to also add in x plus 4 degrees. And total, remind me again, guys, what did you say complementary equals? 90 degrees. So this looks like one of those problems we had a few chapters ago where we have to underline and circle the like terms. This is a constant, that is a constant, and then this is the x family. So I want you to circle and underline those like terms that we have there. Let's see what we can combine. I think we can combine those 2 degrees. Guys, what's 31 plus 4? 35. So on the left side, we've got x plus 35 degrees equals 90 degrees. Ellie, how do I get the x by itself? Subtract what? Very good. We're going to subtract 35 degrees from both sides, and this will help us to identify what the x is going to equal. All right, guys, what's the answer?
55.
55 what?
Degrees.
Degrees. So let's box just that part in. Now here's what you could do with this. If I were to come back up to the very top, I could plug in 55 where it says x. So instead of x plus 4, guys, what's 55 plus 4?
59.
59. So this green angle is 59 degrees. How much did we say this red angle was?
31.
31. So I should be able to add the 59 and the 31. Go ahead and add those together. And it's supposed to equal whatever the complementary angle equals. Guys, what is 59 plus 31?
90.
90 degrees. And did we want this to be a 90-degree angle? Yes. So that's just an extra way of being able to check to see, did I do my work correctly or not? Let's look at this last one over here. You can see there is a straight line, and then we have one line coming off of it. Guys, when there's a straight line, what do we call that? Repeat after me. Supplementary.
Supplementary.
You hopefully wrote that down on your notes next to the word supplementary. It is whenever you see a straight line and there is only one line coming off of it. Now, read to me what the definition of supplementary angles is at the top of your notes. Go ahead. All right, so two angles. This is the first angle right here. What did they name that angle as? They just called it x degrees. So we know we've got x degrees. Can anyone look at that and guess how much you think x degrees will be?
4.
-4.
What does it look like? It looks like a 90-degree angle. But we cannot say, oh yeah, that's 90 degrees. How come I cannot say that's 90 degrees?
Because it says X.
It says x, and also here's why. It does not have that little box. The little box tells us it's 90 degrees. Otherwise, it might be 89, it might be 91, or it could be something close to that. But if it doesn't have the box, it's definitely not exactly 90 degrees. Okay? Now let's look at the other one. I'll color this one green. What does it name this angle as? X minus 4. So I also have to add x minus 4. The total of that supplementary angle is how many degrees, class? How many degrees is always a straight line? 180 degrees. So now we're going to circle and underline the like terms. Is there anybody else in the x family here?
No. Well, yeah, the other x.
Yes, the other x. Okay, so here you could put an imaginary 1 if you want. That's 1x and that is 1x. Do you guys remember what a number that stands alone is called? A constant. So then that -4 is just all by himself. All right, let's add these together. Jonathan, 1x plus 1x? It is 2x. And then I've still got -4 equals 180 degrees. What should I get rid of now?
That's -4.
Not the 2. Remember the 2, we talked about it a long time ago. It's attached to that, so we're going to keep it together. So we're going to get rid of the -4. How do I get rid of that?
Plus subtract it from the 1.
I'm going to add 4. You've got to do the opposite. So you don't want to subtract it. You want to add it. This now cancels out. Luke, what am I left with over here on the right side?
184 degrees.
184 degrees. Madison, how do I get x by itself? You divide by 2 on both sides. Autumn, what's my answer?
X equals 92.
X equals 92 what?
Degrees.
Degrees. So then let's box that in. And if you wanted to, like I did before, we just found out that x equals how many degrees?
90.
92. Isn't that close to 90 degrees like we guessed?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to plug in 92 here, but it says x minus 4. So guys, what's 92 minus 4?
88.
88. So if I were to add those two angle measures together, what do you get?
180.
What is it? 180. And isn't it true that we have learned anytime you have a straight line, it's going to be 180 degrees. So excellent job. You did very good on that. We're going to look at the next set here, which are the same exact idea. I want you to classify each pair of angles and then find the value of x. So right now, I want you to decide whether D, E, and F are complementary, supplementary, or vertical. Go ahead and do that with your partner. All right, let's see how we did. Luke and Jacoby, what do you guys think D is? Supplementary. What makes you think that this is supplementary? Either one of you, go ahead.
Because that is two angles on the same line, whose sum is 180 degrees.
Okay? For me, when I think about supplementary, I feel as though I just like to think it's got a straight line. Okay? And you're right. Those do equal up to 180 degrees, which is going to be helpful to us here in just a minute. Let's look at the next one. E. What do you guys think?
I think it's complementary.
Okay, some thought complementary because this little thing has a 90 degree, but those are not, because in order to be complementary, it would have to have two angles, so then it would have to like split it right there, that equal 90 degrees. So instead, what do you guys think it is?
Vertical.
It is vertical. Remind me again or read to me, what do we know about vertical angles?
It's equal together.
It looks like an X, okay? That's probably the easiest one. But if I go back to my mathematical definition, it's two angles that share a vertex. So we can see they do share this point right there. They're opposite of each other. So this angle is opposite of what we would say this angle is. And then there's one final one. Guys, identify what is that last one? Complementary. How do we know it's complementary? Because it has a right angle, all right? It's got a 90-degree angle right here. And you can see that it has two angles that add up to that 90 degrees. So that is correct. That is complementary. Now let's go ahead and identify what the x would be. Does anyone want to help me with problem D? Jonathan, how would I do that? How many degrees is this angle right here, Jonathan? 85. Okay. What do we say the other angle is called there, Jonathan? What's it say? What's it named? I just circled it. X. Okay, so we know 85 plus x equals how many degrees is every supplementary angle? 180. All right, I want you and your partner to answer that together and stand once you know the x answer. All right, Ellie, tell me what I need to do.
Okay, so you subtract 85 on each side,
Very good.
and then you get 95.
95 what?
30.
Very good. So always remember you want to put in the degrees symbol when you're finding an angle measure. If I were to plug this in up here, the x would be 95. If I added 95 plus that 85, class, what would I get?
180.
180, and that's what we always want whenever we are working with a supplementary angle. Let's go to the next one. Vertical, as I've said before, is my personal favorite because what do we know about vertical angles?
They're all right angles.
They're not all right angles.
Measures are equal.
It does look like an X, but what did you say, Michaela?
Measures are equal.
The measures are equal. So class, do we know how many degrees that one is this time?
90.
It is 90. So if that is 90, what does X have to be?
90.
So the reason why I love it is because there's really no work that has to be shown. We know that they equal each other, so it equals 90 degrees. Let's go on to the next one. Complementary angle. It says two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. So I have to add together the first angle. What did they name this angle? X. So I have X plus, what did they name this angle?
2x minus
2x minus 3. So we've got to add together. It has in parentheses 2x minus 3. And how many degrees does every complementary angle always equal? 90 degrees. So many times we've talked about these parentheses. Do you guys think I need the parentheses there still? No. Remember, anytime you have a plus in front of it, it is no longer necessary to keep it. So I'm just going to say x plus 2x minus 3 equals 90 because I no longer needed those parentheses. Now we're going to underline and circle the like terms. This is x family and the constants. If it helps you, you can put a 1 right there. Now I want you and your partner to identify, work together to figure out what the value of x is going to be. All right, the first thing you need to do is combine the like terms. Guys, what is 1x plus 2x?
3x.
3x. So now I know I'm left with 3x minus 3 equals 90. Remember, you want to keep the x with that number it's attached to. So instead I'm going to get rid of the minus 3. And I will add 3 to both sides. If yours doesn't look like this, erase it and fix it. Now I've got 3x equals 93. How do I get x by itself?
Divide by 3.
Divide by 3 on both sides. When I do that, what is the answer?
30.
All right, so we've got x equals 31 degrees. And once again, if you wanted to, you could plug this in up here. That x would then be 31 degrees. And if we then plugged in right here, 2 times 31 is 62. 62 minus 3 would be 59. So if you were to add 31 degrees and 59 degrees, what do you get? You get 90 degrees, which is what we were looking for. Okay, so because we're on chapel schedule, I'm not going to be able to get through all that I wanted to teach you today, but here's what I want you to understand. When you are naming an angle, write this down in red. 3 points. You always have to have 3 points when you're naming an angle. 1 point from each side, and then you'll always have the vertex in the middle. So let me just explain to you how you would name this angle. Because you can see that's point F, this is point B, and that is point A, we would call that angle, and you write it like that, it almost looks like a less than sign, FBA. Okay? Let me try another one. Let's see. Well, here's another thing. You also could name the same angle if you wanted to name it this way, ABF. It does not matter which way you name that angle. Okay? Let me give you another example. Let's look at this right here. I could name that FBE. How else could I name that angle?
FBA.
EBF. It has to be exactly what's there on that line. Okay, let's talk about another one. This one right here. I could name this EBD. If I were to do it backwards, how would you also name it? DBE. Very good. So let's just identify one of them here. Could someone tell me what this is called when there's that little angle right there? It's a right angle, okay? Whenever I have that right angle, there are 2 angles that make this up. What would this one right here be called, class? Name the angle. E, B.
C.
Remember, the vertex always has to go in the middle. The one I just did in the red, write this down. Angle, EBD. That is complementary to this other one right here. This is DBC. So you're just going to put a little comma, angle DBC. For the sake of time today, I am not going to be able to get through all of the examples here, so I just want you to put a smiley face on that next section for section B. If you want to hear it, there is a video that's linked in our Google Classroom you could listen to. Let's look at the last page, or the last example. Okay, this asks us for number 3 to find the vertical angles. If you would, please take your red pen and just draw a cloud around where it says vertical angles. Here is one vertical angle. What did they name that angle right there, class? 9x degrees. There is another one that is vertical from it. Remember, it looks like it's touching its nose right there. So with your red pen, I want you to simply write in 9x degrees. Now we're going to see if we can find another set of vertical angles. I'm going to look at this one right here. Guys, how many degrees is that one? You can see right there, it says 60 degrees. So guess which one is also going to be 60 degrees? This right here. So I want you to take your red pen and label it 60 degrees. There's one last and final one. I'm going to put it in white. We would call that 6x plus 15. Do you guys see where the other 6x plus 15 is supposed to go? It's going to go right across from it over there. So I want you to write in 6x plus 15 degrees. All right, so tonight you do have homework, and it is 9.5. There will just be 7 questions tonight.